Hey everyone, it's Ryder from Skip. I hope you're doing well. I just had an amazing conversation with Gillian Perkins. Gillian is a YouTuber who helps small businesses and entrepreneurs. In particular, we talked about common mistakes business owners make early on when they're just starting out and how you can avoid those same mistakes so you can grow and create successful businesses. It's a great conversation. If you're new to Skip in our channel, consider subscribing. We're doing lots more of these conversations. Our mission is to help small businesses and entrepreneurs start, fund, and grow. This includes skipping the red tape so you get the information and resources that you need. If you're curious about more, stick around till the end. I've got a special offer for you. Let's get into the conversation with Gillian. Gillian, it's so great to have you today. Thank you so much for joining us and talking to the Skip community.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
And I'd love to start though with your very first YouTube video from May 2017. That's the first one that I could find. Maybe there were some that you've unlisted since then, but I believe that video was about 12 highest paying work from home jobs. And that was around the time when we started doing our first video. So I'd love to hear what inspired you to make that first video happen.
Yeah, well, it wasn't my first video, as you kind of alluded to. I'd started a YouTube channel a few years before that, probably about almost 4 years before that. So I guess maybe in 2013 or so. And it was one of a series of businesses that I started, some of them more intending to be businesses, others more just completely experimental. And it was more on the experimental side. Just, I liked watching YouTube and it looked like fun. And I thought, oh, maybe I can make some money at this. I don't know, but the idea of maybe being famous, that sounded cool too, right? So I started a channel back in 2013 and it was very not successful, and mostly due to the fact that my quality was absolutely horrendous quality. And I'm not being modest here. Objectively, it was just terrible. My videos were terrible. And so I did that for 2 or 3 years off and on, never grew to anything much. But over those 2 or 3 years, despite my very poor showing in terms of effort and in terms of just the quality of the content, I did manage to have a few videos take off and get thousands of views. One of them, the most successful one, got about 500,000 views. And that was a wake-up call to me, because I suddenly shifted the question I was asking from, why aren't people watching my videos, to why are people watching my videos? It kind of opened my eyes, and I realized how just terrible the quality was as soon as I saw it through other people's eyes and people were watching it. So pretty shortly after that, I shut down that first channel, realized that I was embarrassed by the content I was making. And also overall, it didn't seem to be working very well, despite those somewhat successful videos I'd had. My channel wasn't growing nearly as quickly as I wanted it to. It didn't seem like it was probably trending towards something, very impactful for me or for others. So I shut it down. And as I mentioned, I'd been starting different businesses kind of every year or two. I'd start some new venture, or at least try some new thing, all the while running one of the earlier companies I'd started, a company I started when I was 14 that was kind of an accident as far as these different ventures went. But it was an accident that there was demand for. So I kept running that business, and at the same time knowing it wasn't what I wanted to do long-term. And so trying all these different things. And so then around 2016, 2017, I started a digital marketing agency, because I realized one thing that I was really passionate about, and one thing that was driving me to start all these different ventures, was a love of business and a love of marketing. And a love of entrepreneurship. And I'd learned a lot about marketing through the process of getting all these businesses started, having to find the first customers for them. And I started having local business owners ask me what was working for me and how I'd managed to find my first customers, and especially about digital marketing, because that was something that, again, was just really interesting to me. So I had dabbled in it quite a bit. So I started just naturally attracting some local business owner customers, and turned it into a small marketing agency, hired a small team, and at a certain point, wanted to grow the thing. And I was thinking about how to market my own business. And I'd tried everything under the sun at that point, with one business or another. And I'd put billboards up, I'd run radio ads, I'd put ads in the newspaper, I'd use Google ads and Facebook ads. And there was one thing that stood out to me that had worked way better than everything else. And that was YouTube. With YouTube, I had put very little effort, a fair amount of time, but very little effort into it, not done a very good job, and still gotten a very large amount of visibility, really. And so I thought, if I could do that better, if I could harness the potential there, then what sort of results could I create? So I really became a student of the algorithm at that point and studied how YouTube worked, what made some channels successful, what made some videos successful, what it took to create a successful video and a successful channel and grow on YouTube. And I spent about 18 months doing that research. And at the end of that time, I felt really confident that I knew what I needed to do in order to be successful on YouTube. And when I say that, I don't mean I knew what I needed to do to reach 1 million subscribers, or that I thought I could, or anything like that, because I didn't. I wasn't even dreaming of that. I was thinking about my small marketing agency and wanting to attract a few clients every month. And in my mind, in order to do that, I needed, maybe a few thousand subscribers, maybe, but a few thousand subscribers who loved my videos and who trusted me as an expert. And that would have been a complete game changer for that business. So I took to YouTube very confident that I could reach that goal, and reach it I did. Within the first 3 months of starting that second channel, it reached 1,000 subscribers, and it continued to double about every month after that. So in month 4, I got another 1,000, and in month 5, we got then another 2,000. So we were at 4,000, and so on. And it kept doubling up until the point where we had about 16,000 or so subscribers. And from then, ever since that point till now, we've been very steady with the growth at about 10,000 new subscribers per month. And obviously that far surpassed my expectations for the channel, but it really proved the strategies that I started out with that second channel, and just how well they did work, and how the things that I'd identified would make the difference did in fact make the difference, and they created really predictable results.
That's amazing. So was it sometime in 2018 when the new channel crossed 100,000 subscribers?
Yeah. So you mentioned a video. It sounded like you found one from 2017, but when I started that new channel, I believe the first, you're right, 2017. So it was in 2017 when we passed that. I posted that first video in May of 2017, and 3 months later, so I think that would be August, was when we passed 1,000. By the end of that year, probably around like 25,000. And that was when my business really started taking off, where I started just really benefiting from that visibility. I launched a bunch of new digital product offers in January of 2018 as my channel continued to grow just really rapidly. By May of 2018, so 1 year in, I was at 55,000, and we reached 100,000 after 18 months.
Got it. We'll link. You have incredible videos on the algorithm, on the data, and a lot of the folks we've been helping over the past couple years, we've suggested YouTube is your 100x marketing channel. It sounds like this has been the case for your agency. How have things shifted? I mean, now, and I'll give you an example. For us, when we switched from helping individuals to helping small businesses, as soon as we started building the trust, when I was doing YouTube videos, the demand became too much. So now we have 20 people helping people get funding, a lot of the EIDL funding and grants and SBA funding, and that's been our main focus. How have things changed for you over those past 3-4+ years?
Yeah, well, I've certainly seen a shift as well. And it came pretty early on, really, similarly to what you said, where, as soon as you really got on YouTube and you started seeing success or growth there, that changed things for you. Well, I started out with a service-based business model where I was doing digital marketing services for clients. And, it was pretty small at first. And I was working with one client at a time. And I didn't know for sure. I knew I liked marketing, but I hadn't had that much experience working with clients in that capacity. My other business that I was still running at that point. It was also a client business, but I was doing very different sorts of client work. So it was kind of a new experience for me. And so come around the end of 2017, when my channel has really started to take off and I start getting an influx of a lot more clients. And that was when I realized that I didn't really love the client work I was doing. And for me, that was mostly based off of the fact that I was doing something that was very results oriented for them. And yet I had very little influence over the results that they were getting. I could do my very best with their digital advertising, but I couldn't control all of the algorithms, of course, that were impacting the results they got with the advertising. And I also couldn't control their business. And a lot of the results you get from advertising or marketing are going to be impacted, influenced. They're going to be affected by foundational things in your business, what your marketing messages are, what you're selling, who you're trying to sell it to, what your sales process looks like. And all of those things were completely out of my hands. And so it ended up being a really frustrating experience where I could be good at what I was doing and my clients could still not be satisfied with the results that they were getting. And so I realized I wanted to do things differently. I realized that I wanted to educate people about those foundational things, and that they didn't just they thought they needed advertising services because they needed more customers, but there was a lot of deeper work they needed to do on their businesses, starting with, things like a business plan, like you wanted to talk about today. And so that was why in January of 2018, I started launching these digital products that were education oriented. They were focused on people doing things themselves, not having things done for them, because we learn so much through the experience of doing things ourselves. I remember at several points with different businesses that I've run, getting to a point where I thought, I want more customers. Maybe I should outsource this. Maybe I should hire a marketing agency or an advertising agency. And a couple times I tried to, in some capacity, tried to hire a Facebook marketing agency or something like that. And it never worked out very well. And in retrospect, I can see exactly why, because when you try to hand those things off before you fully understand them, before you have a working process, it just doesn't work. It never works. And so I wanted to educate people, started focusing on education, started focusing on teaching people how to do things for themselves so that they could have the full experience and so that they could really understand the full process and fix the real issues.
I love that. I definitely want to loop back to those foundational things. We've observed that as well. I mean, the piece of the pie that we've been helping people with for the past couple of years has been constrained to funding, helping people get funding. Now there's steps before that and after that. The before that is starting. Do you have the right entity? Do you have the market, your niche? You had a recent video on finding your niche. So I want to loop back to that in a second. But then the post funding, it's kind of what to do with it. And I like the point that, you can deploy capital, but for everyone, it's going to be different. And it just depends on in my mind, it's always the problem you're solving. What's the impact you're making on people's lives? And is there something there that's actually, has a foundation? So yeah, I would love to hear more about what do you think are a couple of the key foundations that entrepreneurs and business owners should be thinking about early on?
One of them would absolutely be, is there really demand for the thing that you want to sell? So many people jump into business because they are more of an inventor, and maybe they have some entrepreneurial tendencies as well, but they have an idea for a product that will change the world, or so they think. But it's really hard to convince people to buy things that they don't want. It's really hard to get people to want things that they don't already want. That's the hardest job you can possibly do in marketing. People already want so many things. They already have so many desires, so many ideas for ways that they can improve their lives, for things that they could buy that would make their life easier, for things they could invest in that would improve their businesses. They're already aware of all those things. And so if you try to present a new want to them, a new desire, something they've never even heard of, then you're competing competing with all of those demands and desires they already have. So starting with figuring out how to, at the very least, position your product along to align with one of those desires they already have. Because when I say you need to sell something they already want, you need to make sure there's demand for your idea. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to scrap your idea. You might have an amazing idea for something that would be really useful to people or would really have a positive impact on their lives. But you have to make sure that you're selling, as the phrase goes, right? There's a saying in marketing, right? Sell them what they want and give them what they need. And that doesn't mean it's a bait and a switch. That doesn't mean that we say like, buy this Mercedes because they think that's what they want, but then we hand them a Toyota because that's actually a better car. That's not what we're talking about here at all. It's about figuring how to present things in a way that are things that people recognize, ideas people recognize, ideas that they already have a desire for, and then inserting into that, giving them the thing they need in that package, which I feel like this is sounding really kind of like theoretical. So if you have questions to clarify that, let me know. But that's the first thing that so many entrepreneurs miss, is just they try to sell something without first verifying there's a demand for it. I run a program called Validate. It's a short 8-week accelerator program that was created is specifically to solve that issue that I saw so many entrepreneurs facing. Prior to creating that program, I created a different program that we run still today. It's called Startup Society. And in that program, it's a business development program. We guide people to write business plans and create products and launch products online. And I saw this problem cropping up over and over again, where someone would wonder why they couldn't manage to sell their product. And when I heard about their product, I wondered, is there even demand for that? Do people even want that? I don't want it. Maybe other people want it. I don't know. And I didn't feel like I was in a position to tell them, people don't want that. I don't know what other people want, right? I can be an expert at business and an expert at marketing, but I don't know what every individual on the planet wants, right? I don't know what there's demand for until I've done the research or tried beta launching it myself, done the testing. And I can't do that for every single customer or student of mine. So I wanted to create a program, again, going back to that like education model, that do-it-yourself model versus the done-for-you model, create a program that would teach them how to do that process for themselves, do the market research, do exploratory interviews with people to really find out from them what they were looking for, what they were struggling with, and then do a beta launch process so they could actually test out their idea. And that has been one of our most popular, most successful, most loved programs because it is such a game changer. And I know I'm talking a lot about this program that I offer. It's not about the program though at all. It is about, your question, what are some of those foundational things? It is about doing that process, doing the research yourself, talking to real people, asking them if they even want the thing that you're offering, why or why not? What are they really looking for? What is the problem that they're facing? Why do they want to solve that problem? What is the outcome that they're looking for? What would achieving that outcome mean to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's someone's personal why. In your case, you've been an entrepreneur. I mean, you have a why you've stuck with something, why you've chosen to educate folks to help them grow their business. I think if the gap that I've observed is people not getting feedback earlier on in the process because they're too afraid to get feedback. If I had to pinpoint one thing, I'd be curious to hear your thought on that. It's my third company. And, I recall my first company in 2013, a rideshare company. Anyway, not the most original idea, tough to execute, but just learning so much by doing and staying consistent with something so you can grow. I think that's a piece where, the longer someone waits to hear feedback, just the tougher it's going to be. And I'm not sure and that's one of the things I love about having a YouTube audience, because you get immediate feedback. Within seconds, you're getting people liking something, reacting to something. Certainly encouraging people starting out to do what you can to just start hearing from customers or potential customers. So kind of looping back to the foundational things and the business plan, Are there things that you've seen that, I mean, some of the biggest mistakes you've seen when you're talking with people who are creating a business plan? Maybe they're spending time where they don't need to be spending time, or just doing things that don't matter. What are some of those common mistakes?
Hmm. Well, I'd say a really key aspect to both your business plan and to your marketing and to turning your company into success is your marketing messages, how you explain what it is that you offer. And I see two different kind of mistakes when it comes to marketing messages on the extreme ends of it. Some people kind of skipping over this and kind of assuming that their product will explain itself, and not figuring out how to present, how to package, how to explain what they offer in a compelling way. And then on the other extreme end, people who really understand why it's important. And so they get all up in their head about it and they get stuck there, and they might never even launch their business or never talk about it because they're never quite sure that their marketing message is quite ironed out and quite perfect. Because of course it's not ever going to be perfect for pretty much every company. It is going to be a work in progress. It's going to be something that you continue to modify and improve and update over time, as exactly what you do changes slightly over time as you figure out exactly who you want to work with and you better understand the real impact of the work that you're doing. And that won't be the case for quite every company. Some companies start out with a product that they can easily explain and they stick with that until they die, until they close their doors for one reason or another. But most companies, it's kind of an evolutionary process. So marketing message, so important. It starts with what I was talking about before, doing that market research, talking to real people, and using their language that goes so far for communicating effectively. Instead of using the words you would naturally use, your vocabulary, the way you think about things, use your customer's language. Use the words that they use to describe the problem that they want to solve, the outcome that they want, what they're looking for. Use those words, say them back to them, and you're guaranteed to hit home and to have a message that resonates with people.
Absolutely. And that made me think of something that you brought up in a recent video, which was related to, I forget how you described it, but doing workshops with some of your users to get feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so you can hear the words that they're using to then, okay, this resonates with you. Let me communicate that. Let me shift my messaging and speak to it that way. Talk a little bit more about how long you've been engaged with your audience for a long time, but talk a little bit more about the importance of doing workshops or getting customer feedback.
Yeah, well, I see these as kind of two separate things, but there's certainly a bit of overlap there. So using workshops is just my favorite way to beta launch digital products. So many people these days are thinking about creating a course. They've heard that courses can be profitable, or they want to start a membership site. They like the idea of that passive income, or maybe they just want to write an ebook or something like that. But regardless, teaching a workshop, like a 1-hour workshop, a 90-minute workshop, you can do it over Zoom, and it can just be the quickest and quote dirtiest, but the quickest and dirtiest sort of way to test out a product idea in a way that's really just such an easy yes for your potential customers, because not only is it easy for you to create, it's also easy for them to commit to, because they're not committing to paying hundreds of dollars for an online course that would take so many hours of their time, and they're not sure if they'll implement it. They're only committing to showing up for 1 hour of their time at a specific date and time, which is way easier for people to do than to show up for themselves on their own schedule, right? So often it's easier to show up, at a specific scheduled time. And a lot of the time, the price point of these workshops is much less expensive. So it's a great way to test out an idea, to kind of gauge the demand there, and also to start to get feedback. Just getting your first customers teaches you so much. And of course, you do get feedback from that. You're learning from the process. So that's why I say there is overlap. Separately, I typically like to start out by doing some interviews with some people who I think might be interested. In our program Validate, we call these DMO interviews: desire, motivation, and obstacle interviews. Because we are trying to figure out those exact 3 things. We've got a script that we use inside the program to kind of guide people through what questions they should ask to really pull those things out of people. Because if you just ask someone, what do you want? They want a lot of things, and they don't know where to start. So you have to ask them more pointed questions about how they feel about different aspects, what they're struggling with, what's frustrating to them as it pertains to your idea. And same thing with if you ask them, what they're struggling with or what their end outcome is, you have to figure out the right way to word those questions to really pull the answers out of people.
Absolutely. That's really valuable advice for folks. For you personally, I mean, there's a lot of questions, but I know, one of the things that I'd love to know is, first, I mean, over the past 5 years, I guess you're always getting feedback on your channel, and maybe that's the motivation to keep you going. Has there been moments where you've been like, I can't keep this consistency up? Have you had one of those moments over the past 5-6 years, or maybe many of those?
Yeah, yes and no, I'd say. The feedback that you get from people, it's certainly valuable. It's really interesting. I'm sure some people find it very motivational. I find that it's easy for it to just become noise, and you think that the numbers will matter to you, and they do at first, but as soon as the shininess, that new car appeal wears off, then your eyes just kind of glaze over and they're just numbers and they don't really mean that much anymore. You have to really think like, okay, imagine that many people in a stadium sort of thing. But you just get very used to it very quickly, I would say. So I wouldn't say that those numbers are motivating to me. And I think that others would relate. Other YouTubers would say the same thing. Other content creators, celebrities would say the same thing, that the numbers kind of become just this statistic, really. And it's when you really meet the individuals, that's what's meaningful. That may or may not be enough to sustain you long term. But the reason I say I think others would agree with me is because you see YouTubers, especially, quit all the time with millions of subscribers. And it's because they weren't ever doing it for the fame. That's not really what was motivating for them. Maybe they thought that would be interesting. Maybe they thought that would be nice. But when it all comes down to it, we create because we are creators, and we create because we enjoy creating the content, because we have a story we want to tell, or we have something we want to teach, and we find joy in the creation process. And if for some reason we stop finding joy in the creation process, whether that is a YouTube creator creating their own videos, or it is an actor on a stage for a movie who is enjoying the process of acting. And if you stop loving the process, then you are going to struggle with motivation. And so I would say that there have been plenty of small times, sometimes more frequently for a time, and then sometimes more spaced out, where for some reason I didn't love the process. Maybe as every YouTube channel experiences this, there will be times when your videos are extra popular, and that is necessarily followed by times when your videos are less popular, right? It's not going to keep shooting for the moon forever. It's a curve. It goes up and down. And you think that those ups would make you feel good, and they do, but they don't feel as good as the downs make you feel bad. And the downs, even if you don't feel sad or depressed about it, you will feel like a failure to some extent, whether that is YouTube views, whether that is book sales, whether that is you had one piece of art that was really popular, and then the next piece of art, the next 10 pieces of art you create, no one cared about. Whatever you create, you will have some that are more popular and some that are less popular. And you will worry after you have one that is successful that maybe you will never have one that is that successful again. And you will then be proved right by the next 10 pieces of art you create. And every artist, every creator experiences that. And that often can bring feelings of demotivation. Maybe I'm just a failure. Maybe this isn't working out. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe it's going to crash and burn, right? Maybe I should just give up now. Those feelings certainly come sometimes. And then there's also kind of separately the periods of occasional creative burnout, where you've said everything you have to say about something and you're not sure what to say next, where you've gotten distracted in your life. Not that this is a bad thing, but maybe just there's something else in your life that is more important or interesting to you, and you don't really feel like showing up next week again to talk about that thing that you talk about on your YouTube channel, right? And so there are always those times, but And most of us are not going to just quit something tomorrow because we don't feel like it tomorrow, right? If something's working for us, we're going to stick through it, and we're going to think about it for at least a while and weigh the pros and the cons, right? And whenever I've come to that point where I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, there's some reasons not to. Well, then I'd think about it, and I think about all the reasons there was to keep going. And because I wasn't, so flighty as to just quit tomorrow because I didn't feel like it tomorrow, upon some further thought, it always proved to be worth it. I could always see why it would be worth it to keep going. And I'm so glad that I have.
That's incredible. That willingness to continue. Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I think you alluded to it as well. Hearing the people that you're helping, the value people are getting from your content. I mean, you're doing it for yourself because you enjoy the process, because it's like your morning routine, or whenever you do it, your coffee and video type thing. But I'm sure you seeing the impact you're having gives you that determination. And I think that's a good reminder, because for people to have in mind what's going to make them happy, what in 10 years, right? If you want to have a business or a venture that has staying power, what's the longevity there? Can you imagine doing this in 10 years, 20 years? And people have different chapters of their creativity. But yeah, that's incredible. Tons more questions, but I know we're out of time. I'd love to hear, for people just starting out, because this is the area we are expanding to. The past couple of years, it's been people who had businesses to get funding to survive the pandemic. This is the most important time for new businesses. I think 5 million were started last year. For those folks starting out, of course, they should find resources like you, people who've been through it for over a decade, so you can save yourself some time. What about you do a lot of courses, you do a lot of workshops, and this accelerator program. Just would love to hear briefly about this accelerator program, if that's something that's you'd recommend for folks at a certain stage or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've run plenty of programs, sold plenty of different products over the years. At this point, we've really boiled it down to, focusing on the ones that I feel make the biggest impact on people's lives and on their businesses. So it's just a handful that we offer today. We've got one program that specifically teaches YouTube strategy. Now it's called Creator Fast Track. And so if someone wants to learn how to grow quickly on YouTube, the specific goal of that program is to get you to 1,000 subscribers in 3 months or less. So it's an accelerator of a different sort. I wouldn't necessarily term it as an accelerator program, but it's certainly an accelerated YouTube growth course. Get a lot of good feedback from that one. And then on the business side of things, we run primarily 2 main programs. One of them is the one I was talking about earlier. It's called Validate. It's all about validating your business idea, your product idea, testing it out, getting the proof that you're on the right track. And a big part of getting that proof is earning your first $1,000 with it. So this is the perfect program for people who haven't yet sold their product idea. Maybe, as you mentioned earlier, they are a little bit nervous about getting that feedback, a little bit nervous about putting themselves out there, about really telling people about it. This is the Get Yourself Over That Hump program. We really force you to put yourself out there and to find out for sure whether or not people want the thing that you are interested in selling. And that's an 8-week accelerator program. We typically run it either once or twice each year, almost always in January, and then sometimes a second time if we have the capacity. And then our other main business program is called 100K Mastermind. And this is the next level program. This is the program for people who have already successfully sold their product and they are consistently seeing some sales. But when I say consistently, I mean they are making sales every month or two. Maybe they're making sales every month, but they're not seeing the consistent revenue that they want and not at the level that they want. So it's specifically tailored toward people who are selling digital products, courses, memberships, and some people who sell services and things of that nature too. But Mostly digital products. And what we teach in that program is how to set up a high converting, evergreen, automated sales funnel so that you can focus on simply generating traffic, driving it into that funnel, and it can produce at least $10,000 per month for your business in revenue. So that's why it's called 100K Mastermind. It's designed to get business owners from earning, just a few $1,000s a year with their business to consistently earning six figures or more.
That's incredible. So I imagine the natural progression will be then graduating those folks to the million plus. It must be amazing to have seen people grow. You have a trajectory of businesses now over the past several years. So
Yeah,
it's really
absolutely.
incredible. Yeah, really incredible
It's been
work.
really fun to watch the success stories, the case studies, to watch them mount up and become bigger and bigger and better over the years, both as we've refined curriculum, and figured out how to get people the best results possible, but also as students have been with us for longer periods of time now. Some people who got started with us with one of the more beginner programs and now is going through 100K Mastermind and seeing massive results there. Those results they're no more important, I would say, than those first steps, right? You have to take the first steps first, but they are a little bit more exciting feeling.
Absolutely. And one of the things I love most is creators like yourself creating more accessibility. I mean, making this possible for people to become a creator and use that to grow their business. And those two, there's a Venn diagram of those two overlapping where it's like, because you're a successful creator, you have the distribution to grow your passion. So yeah, really, thank you so much, Gillian, and just incredible information, and certainly would love to do a part two. There's so much more to unpack, and I know it's going to be really valuable for our users, not only across YouTube, but on our app and website as well. So really
Thank you again so much for having me. This has been great. So huge thank you again to Gillian for joining us, and thanks for watching till the end. If you want help starting, funding, or growing your business, we would love to help you. If you want 1 month free of one-on-one personalized support, use the link right in the description. After your first month, your second month will be free. Thanks again for tuning in. We've got more great conversations coming up. Most importantly, stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.